comparable at third reading. But absent that, we feel that this is important enough that we should test the opinion of the House in due course.
My Lords, I've put my name to and support Amendment 255 laid by the Noble Lord Moylan, which straightforwardly means that a notice may not impose a requirement relating to a service that would require that provider to weaken or remove end-to-end encryption. Very clear. I do understand that the other amendments that introduce safeguards, which is better than nothing, is not what I would like, but I will support them if they push to a vote. But I actually think that the government should really consider seriously not going anywhere near getting rid of encryption in this bill, and reconsider it by the time we get back to third reading. I think, as the Noble Lord Moylan has explained, this is becoming widely known about now and is causing some concern. If passed, this bill, as it is at the moment, gives Ofcom far-reaching powers to force services like WhatsApp to install software that would scan all our private messages for evidence of, to see if there is evidence of terrorism or child sexual exploitation and abusive content, and then would automatically send a report to third parties like law enforcement if it suspects wrongdoing, and all of that without the consent or control of the sender or the intended recipient. Now, I'd just like to state that encryption is a wonderful innovation. That's why more than 40 million people in the UK use it every day, because it ensures that our private messages cannot be viewed, compromised or altered by anyone else, not even the provider of the chat services. It really does require somebody handing them over to a journalist and saying, you can have my WhatsApp messages for anyone to read them. But beyond that, you can't read them. I thought that, and one of the interesting things about the bill that we've discussed throughout, has been a discussion about technology's design and functionality and making sure it's not harmful. And ironically, it's the design and function of encryption that actually helps to keep us safe online. And that's why so many people talk about civil libertarians and journalists and brave dissenters using it. But actually, just for the rest of us, it's a tool to protect our data and private communications in the digital realm. And I just want to pose it here that it's an irony that those technologies being proposed in terms of client-side scanning, those are the technologies that are potentially harmful. Because it is, as people have noted, the equivalent of putting video cameras in our homes to listen into every conversation and send reports to the police in case we discuss illicit topics. And as I've said before, whilst child sexual abuse is horrendous and vile, we know that it largely happens in the home, and as yet the government has not advocated that we actually film in everybody's home in order to stop child sexual abuse. But we should do almost anything and everything that we can, but I think this is the wrong answer. I think focusing on encryption just makes no sense to me either, because the government has made exemptions recognising the importance in a democracy of private correspondence. So, exempted from the bill are text messages or MSM or Zoom or oral commentaries or email. And it seems perverse to me to demonise encryption in this way. But I also note that there are exemptions in terms of anything sent on message apps by law enforcement or public sector or emergency responders. And I appreciate that half of government communications is said to be done over these apps like WhatsApp. So it seems then that the target of this part of the bill are UK's private citizens and residents, the public, who are seen as the people who must be spied on. And I don't think, as a consequence, it's surprising that over 80 national and international civil society organisations have said that this would make the UK the first liberal democracy to require the routine scanning of people's private chat messages. I do want to ask the Minister what he says to the legal opinion from the technology barrister Matthew Ryder KC in an opinion commissioned by Index on Censorship precisely on this part of the bill, that has compared this to law enforcement wiretapping without a warrant and says the bill will grant Ofcom a wider remit of surveillance powers over the public than GCHQ has got. Now, even if the Minister is not interested in lawyers or civil libertarians, then surely we should be listening then to the advice of science and technology experts in relation to complex technological solutions. And I do want to ask which which experts are being consulted. I noted that Matthew Hodgson, the boss of encrypting messaging app Element, has said wryly that, quote, government has not consulted with UK tech firms, but only with huge multinational corporations that want to sell software that scans messages, who are unsurprisingly telling lawmakers that it's possible to scan messages without breaking encryption. The problem is, it is not possible to scan those messages without breaking encryption. It's actually misinformation to say that. And that's why whole swathes of leading scientists and technologists from across the globe have recently put out an open letter and explained why and how it's not true. They've explained that it creates really dangerous side effects that can be harmful in the way that the Noble Lord Moylan explained in terms of security. It makes the online world less safe for many of us. And the existing scanning technologies are flawed and ineffective. And that scanning will nullify the purpose of encryption. And I do refer my noble lords to the work of the Internet Society and the academic paper Bugs in Our Pockets, The Risks of Client-Side Scanning, for more details and all the peer-reviewed work there. So, I do understand that given the horrific nature of child sexual abuse and, of course, of terrorism, but just to concentrate on child sexual abuse, because the bill is so concerned with it, it can be tempting for the government to hope that there's a technological silver bullet to eradicate it. But the evidence suggests otherwise. One warning from scientists is that scanning billions of pieces of content could lead to millions of false positives, and that could not only frame innocent users, but could mean that the police become overwhelmed, diverting valuable resources away from real investigations into child sexual abuse. And the study of the Max Planck Institute for the Study of Crime into a similar German law that lasted from 2008 to 2010 found that the German police, having access to huge amounts of data, did not have any deterrent effect, did not assist in cleaning up crimes or increase convictions, but did waste a lot of police time. So it's important that this draconian invasion of privacy is not stated as necessary for protecting children. I really do share the exasperation of Signal's CEO Meredith Whittaker when she challenged the Secretary of State and pointed out that there are some double standards here, that, for example, slashing the early intervention programmes over the last decade did not help protect children, that chronically underfunding or under-resourcing child social care doesn't help, and my own bugbears, or that when I raised the dangers to child protection, having talked to social workers and colleagues, when we closed down schools and locked down society, it was brushed to one side. When I and others raised the horrors of the young girls who've been systematically raped by grooming gangs, I was told that the authorities ignored for many, many years. I was told to stop talking about it. There are real threats to children that we ignore, and I just don't want us in this instance to use that very emotive discussion to attack privacy. I do want to also stress there's no complacency here. Law enforcement agencies in the UK already possess a wide range of powers to seize devices and compel passwords, and even covertly monitor and hack accounts to identify criminal activity, and that's good. And crucially, private messaging services can and do, and I'm sure they can do more, work to tackle abuse and to keep people safe without the need to scan or read people's messages in a whole wide range of ways. I stress all this because, and I did listen to Lord Stevenson saying don't speak too long. Yeah. So you'll be delighted to know that I didn't speak in any of the groups so that I could make these points. I spoke very briefly to agree with the noble Lord Stevenson, but that was a 1-minute one. This is very, very important. I can't stress enough that whilst I have talked a lot about freedom of speech, I think it's hugely important that we don't jeopardise the public's privacy online falsely by claiming it will protect children. I also think it will see the end of Rishi Sunak's dream of the UK becoming a technology superpower in the way that the noble Lord Allen of Hallam explained. I don't think it's good for the growth agenda, because these organisations and WhatsApp messages and all the rest of it will leave the UK. But largely, it's in defence of privacy that I urge you support the noble Lord Moylan's amendment, or vote for whichever is moved.
My Lord.